Alrighty, and just like that, young Perry, how are you?
Good. How are you, bro?
You're not that young anymore.
I'm getting there, 21.
So let's wind back a bit because I first met you at Showdown
Yep.
and you were fighting that night,
Yeah, it was.
and that would have been a couple of years ago now, right?
I think I was 19. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and
a few years ago.
time's gone fast, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. To be honest, like sometimes I forget how much I've actually competed. All the years blend together, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was actually a while ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, and like I wanted to get you on for a little while, and we just through scheduling or whatever, it's just been obviously
Yep.
timing.
Yep.
But we're here now,
Yeah.
and we're sitting at Igor's in
Yep.
Bondi.
Yep.
But yeah, like I guess why I was curious about you is because you always struck me even when I first met you. You were very serious about what you wanted to do.
Yep.
And I guess for a lot of people when they see that, especially in a young guy, they go, oh, he's just going through a phase, right? So I guess to give people some perspective on your level of commitment and to sort of talk through some of the things that you've done, I guess give everybody a bit of an idea of like, so when did you first start getting into martial arts?
So I actually first started getting into martial arts when I was probably in maybe grade 4, grade 5.
Yep.
The funny story, a girl at school I actually had a crush on. She was doing karate and she invited me one day. So obviously I ended up going to karate with her. And then, ended up liking karate more than her, to be honest. And since then, just loved whatever it was about karate or hand-to-hand physical contact is just, I really loved. And then in Japan, I actually met a guy, someone that I went to school with, and he went to school in America. He was a freestyle wrestler. He was into MMA, and he knew that I did karate. So he was like, hey, let's do some sparring up at the park. I honestly didn't know what MMA was, anything like that, and he brought 4-ounce gloves. Put the 4-ounce gloves on, and he did some MMA shit on me, and I was like, whatever this is, I need to learn that because I just got my ass beat. And then I found the kickboxing gym, Muay Thai gym.
Yep.
I started training there, and I just fell in love with it, and yeah, so now here I am.
Okay. So I guess to sort of wind it all back for people, so where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Sydney, Australia, till I was about 12, and then when I was 12, I moved to Japan with my family, and then when I was 16, I came back to Sydney.
Wow. Okay. So talk me through that. Okay. Before we get to Japan, I do want to ask you questions about Japan, but so you grew up in Sydney, and what was life like? Like, what was school like? How'd you go in school? And
Yeah, I never really liked school. I don't think I did too well in school. I just think, I don't know. I never really did well in school. I wasn't like I don't think I was a bad kid, a terrible kid. Just for whatever reason, school was not interesting to me. And I think I always knew I was going to do something else. Ever since I was in like 2nd grade, I can remember I was like, I'm not going to university. I'm not doing anything like that.
Yep.
So.
And do you have any siblings, Barry?
I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Older brother and a younger sister. You're the middle child.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, out of curiosity, any middle child syndrome vibes there? Were you often overlooked by the parents or anything? Or?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know too much about the middle child syndrome, but I think probably everyone feels like that sometimes.
Yeah. And then, so like, what's the age gap between the oldest?
So it's all 4 years. My brother's 24. My younger sister is 17.
Yeah.
And I'm 21.
Yeah. Okay. So 4 years between each of you.
Yep.
So then it's a sizable gap. Like it's enough so that you would have some memories of when your sister would have been a baby, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have some memories when she was a baby. She was a pretty small thing, and I can definitely remember her growing up and all of that. And I do remember my older brother definitely being my older brother. You know what I mean?
Did you guys punch on or?
Yeah, we did. But like I said, I started doing kickboxing, Muay Thai, and I remember actually the one fight that we had where I was like, all right, I'm the older brother now.
Oh, really?
Not literally, but I was like, it got to the point where I was like, okay, it's like, I don't need to fight this guy anymore. And since then, we definitely, because the thing is, he's always been a lot more verbally, better than me. He's always been able to articulate himself better, whereas I guess I haven't been able to. So we got into a lot of fights, but then at one point it got to the point where I was like, okay, I can beat this guy. I don't need to fight him anymore. It's actually funny. I will say one time So UFC 229 was the first pay-per-view I ever bought and I ever watched. And obviously Khabib got McGregor with that choke. And my brother and I, we had a fight like a few days after that. And I remember we were in the middle of a fight and I remember Khabib McGregor and I took his back and I put the choke in and everything. I got up like I was like, he won the UFC world title. And then, yeah, after that day, I was like, okay, I'm good now.
Yeah, it's
I don't
done.
need to fight him.
Yep. And then so has that, like, I guess, what's your relationship like with him now?
Oh, you know, like, he's my older brother. You know, it's so weird because we're so alike in so many ways, but we're, like, completely opposite in so many ways too. And, you know, he's doing his thing in Japan. I'm here. It can be a little tough sometimes, but I check up on him. He checks up on me. And at the end of the day, like, we both know we love each other. We're both here for each other anytime we need it. And it's definitely interesting because, like I said, I'm doing my thing in martial arts and he's actually studying photography. He's not really into physical
Stuff, yeah.
training too much. So, like I said, we're opposite in a lot of different ways, and I think we definitely learn from each other. He teaches me a lot about how to be a more creative and intellectual person, whereas I think I could definitely help him a lot with more of the physical stuff, how to be, I won't say masculine, but I think how to tap into that masculine side a little bit more. That's where I think we're different.
Yeah, it's physical energy.
Yeah, physical energy.
Yeah.
Whereas he's never really been about that.
Okay. And so then, like, out of curiosity, you know, what would you, in primary school, so obviously you would have still been in primary school before you moved to Japan. What did your teachers used to say about you? What were your report cards like?
He talks too much. He's disruptive to the class. He has anger management issues. I remember my third grade teacher that just, you know, I think, yeah, she tried to, she labeled me as all these things, whereas, you know, sometimes kids are just not being kids, but, you know, I don't think it's fair to label kids as these things when they're not, you know. I think there are better ways to deal with things. But yeah, I was definitely a disruptive kid. I definitely wasn't an evil kid. I was never no bully. I was never picking on anyone, but I was definitely a disruptive kid. I do feel bad for my teachers,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, well, I think that's a lot of boys are like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was the same.
Yeah.
You know, I was disruptive in class. I remember we used to have this, like, maths teacher, and he would, like, throw the chalk duster.
Yeah.
To try and, like, if somebody was talking, it was like, woi, 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 and he'd throw the chalk duster at you to try and, like, get your attention. It's like, you know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And,
sure.
yeah, but I think, you know, I think boys have got to get that physical energy out, right?
Yeah.
And so did you have any outlet before martial arts? Like, were you playing sport or you doing anything else? Or?
So literally since I was a kid, I've been not athletic, but, like, I've always been into sport. I've always needed that outlet. Since I was a kid, I was actually doing AFL.
Oh, okay.
AFL was actually what I wanted to get into. I actually even met Adam Goods and all of that. I got my football signed, or AFL ball signed by everyone on Sydney Swans team. I met them all. I sold that ball on eBay for about $20 when I was like 8 years old. I bought a shitload of chocolate with it. I thought I was rich, but I'm not. I'm not rich. I could have probably sold it for more, but, you know, I didn't really have I didn't know how much it was worth. And then, like I said, I got into OzTag. I got into all of that stuff as a kid. And, yeah, I got into karate. And so then when I was a kid, actually, because I loved watching Naruto. Naruto's like a ninja show.
Anime.
Yeah, anime. So I was doing all the karate and stuff, and I was like, okay, but I want to learn how to, I don't know, do backflips and all that shit. So I started taking myself to parkour classes. So as a kid, when I was like 9 years old, I was taking myself karate twice a week and taking myself to parkour classes twice a week, which was like all the way out in Tempe. I lived in Surrey Hills.
Wow.
So I've always loved that grind. And then I've just continued it on. And it's so hard for me to take a day off the gym. I think, you know, not to be up myself, but I think I'm definitely in the gym more than anyone that I know. I just love training.
Yeah. So then, out of curiosity, like, what were the parkour classes like? What do they teach you? Did you learn how to backflip and all that sort of stuff, or?
No, it was a bunch of more so learning how to jump over urban things. So, like, I don't know if this is what it's called, but like a cat jump where you yeah, pretty basic stuff, to be honest. You jump over like walls and stuff like that, and they had some monkey bar stuff that was fun, climbing around all of that. It was definitely a hard workout. And I remember as a kid, I actually had a pretty strong upper body compared to other kids my size, because I was doing these parkour classes. Like, I was able to hold myself up and do all this stuff with my upper body.
Like flag poles and stuff.
Yeah, I've kind of lost that, to be honest. But as a kid, I had it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny when you watch, kids in playgrounds and stuff and they're doing monkey bars. Like, I think adults take for granted how difficult that is. And obviously they're a lot smaller, so, their muscle mass doesn't have to be as strong or dense for them to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like sometimes when I've gone now and it's like I'm trying to do the monkey bars with my kids, I can do them. But like, I find there's definitely an easier way.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to be a bit smarter with my body mechanics.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm a bit heavier, or I'm a bit, my feet, I don't want my feet to touch the ground and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, learning how to maneuver your body is such an important thing, right? And those explosive movements that you get out of like parkour in terms of like how to fall.
Yeah.
Right? How to fall, how to land.
Yeah.
And that coordination between your hands and your feet.
Yeah.
It'll definitely help with your balance and things like that, right?
Yeah. No, it was really good, to be honest, and probably something I could get back into, because these past, I don't know, since I was 14, all I've ever done is kickboxing, wrestling, stuff like that. I've done no really acrobatics training, any of that. And especially when I was in Japan, my Muay Thai gym was very, very old school. It was like pretty much just sparring every day, bag work every day, not a whole lot of, stretching, which is something I'm getting into now because of how beat up my body has gotten over the past few years. I'm trying to do mobility every single day. My coach actually took the team and I to a gymnastics gym a few times, and he had us practicing backflips, front flips, all of this good stuff. And I was like, man, I feel like an absolute spastic. And then I look over and there's the kids over on the other mats, and they're bloody looking like they're in the Olympics, and I can barely do a front flip. So it's like, I've got a lot to work on. Yeah, with that stuff.
It's eye-opening, isn't it? Because you take for granted like that when you get used to a specific style of exercise, right? And then you go, I'm getting good at this. Yeah. And you feel like, I can do this. But then you try and translate it into something else, and then it's like, oh, shit, I'm a beginner again.
I'm not even a white belt with that stuff, bro, honestly. I mean, I've seen some physios and stuff that have like looked at my shoulder mobility and all of that, and they've gone like, bro, you're probably holding back a lot of your potential just because of how stiff everything is. So it's something I'm getting smarter with now. Every day I'm trying to do, mobility, trying to really open up all of that. Like, it's one thing to, do your strength and do all your training and get muscles, but at the end of the day, muscle without mobility is completely useless. So I'm just trying to incorporate a lot more of that into my training, really open everything up.
Yep. So then the karate school that you went to, was that a Sydney-based school before you went to Japan?
So that was in Sydney. It was in Ultimo.
Do you remember what kind of style of karate? Was it Shotokan or?
We were kids, so I think it was more so just, I don't think it was too serious. From what I remember, I mean, we did some kicks, we did some punches, but I think it was more of like a kids class. It wasn't too serious, but I loved the sparring. That was my favorite.
Yep.
They made us, it was non-contact sparring, which sounds a bit dumb.
Yep.
But obviously we were kids, so then
touch sparring,
yeah, they didn't want us hitting each other, but I absolutely love that. And I was always getting in trouble for like actually kicking.
Tagging people.
Yeah, actually tagging people. I remember my first day there, I was like, oh, why can't we go harder, this and that? And the sensei was just like, bro, just relax, okay? You're a kid.
How funny. So then when it came to, the family decided to move to Japan.
Yep.
What was the reasons behind that?
So my mum had actually, she's a fashion designer. Wow. And she had been there just a few times, probably not a few, but like 5 or 6 times. She would go there. She would source like material, stuff like that, bring it back here, do a collection. And so then when I was about, 12, my mum got quite sick and it was cancer.
Oh, wow.
It was the second time she had actually got it, and so which is pretty serious. And we just decided as a family that the best thing for her at the time was to go to Japan. She was familiar with Japan. And luckily it worked out because she's alive and well now, cancer-free, which is amazing.
What kind of cancer?
So my mum had breast cancer when I was probably, I don't remember the exact age, maybe 6. And then when I was 11, the doctors found that it was back in her system.
Mm.
And yeah, luckily she's all good now, but
Yeah.
just very grateful for that. Not many people come back from that,
Yeah.
having cancer twice.
Yeah. So then, what was it like? You know, I guess for you as a kid,
Right.
having being forced to leave, I guess, all your friends and family to go to Japan, or did you have family over in Japan as well?
No family in Japan. That was the thing about it. It was sort of just, I think my mum was just trying to make something happen.
Yeah.
It was sort of just a shot in the dark, to be honest. It was like, listen, if something doesn't change, the worst is going to happen. And so it's like, yeah, we took a chance and it worked out. But at the time, it's hard to say what I was feeling. I think in a way I was very happy to be going and starting something new in Japan. Sort of just leave behind a lot of things. It was, at the same time, it was really hard because it's a completely different culture. You know what I mean? It's completely different. It was a struggle and probably something that I need to work through in my head a bit more.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah. So I guess for you, that culture shock.
Yeah.
You know, you're in an Eastern country. Obviously, everybody speaks Japanese.
Yeah.
Like, I guess for you, what kind of school do you go to? Like an international school? Do you go to a normal school there, or?
So yeah, most international kids sort of have to go to international school because the bullying over there is so bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's very bad there.
Wow.
The bullying to foreign students and just foreigners in general is very bad. It's just something that people don't talk a lot about Japan.
Yeah, people always say it's like a really friendly place, right? But you're going as a tourist
as a tourist compared to someone living in the neighborhood is very different, especially to where I was living. I was living in, well, I don't think people are going to know when I say it, but Yamashina. I was living in Yamashina.
And where's that in?
That's in Kyoto, but it's a little bit more countryside. So, I think there was like one other white family in like how many kilometers. And so it's just, if you look at Japan's history too, obviously they're being a very shut off country. They don't like outsiders too much. And I'm not speaking on behalf of all Japanese people. I'm just speaking in terms of their history. Obviously they were shut off from the world until that American dude, his name was actually something Perry. Literally, and he came to Japan, kind of forced them to open up and start trading with other countries. And I think a lot of that attitude was carried on. But like I said, there are some amazing Japanese people who are just the nicest people you'll ever meet. They love foreigners and they're so nice. But obviously there are just some people that are just won't have it. They want Japanese people in their neighborhood and they don't want it any other way. It's fine.
So I guess, did you experience any of that bullying?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, experienced some racism in school. Yeah. Which, looking back on it now, you kind of just had, at the time, I kind of just had to laugh and like go along with it. But looking back on it now, I'm like, oh no, that was totally racist. I'm like, yeah.
Any stories that you can share about that?
So, I was able to speak Japanese at a pretty good level when I was in school, and my pronunciation was actually probably one of the best things about it. I sounded like a Japanese person, and the Japanese kids wouldn't want me to speak that way. They would tell me to speak Japanese, but purposely pronounce the names wrong.
Yeah,
like pronounce it wrong, so like a white person, American would. And yeah, they'd all laugh. And at the time, I just kind of like went along with it. Oh, what's going on? But now I'm looking back and I'm like, oh no, that was pretty racist. And all the Japanese kids would eat lunch in their room, and all the foreigners would kind of be outcasted to eat lunch in a different room. And yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was a good eye opener to grow up like that.
Yeah. And so then, when it came to like their schooling system, like, do you remember like what the structure was like? What was your school day like?
School day. Man, I couldn't tell you because I didn't really take much focus in school, to be honest. Most days I was literally just writing. Instead of writing down my kanji characters in my notebook pad, I'm not, no word of a lie, I would be writing down combinations that I was going to try later on in kickboxing training, just stuff like that. I would be watching fights on my laptop instead of watching class. But I think it was just pretty basic like any other school. I just didn't take much focus, to be honest.
Wow. But you still managed to pick up the language okay?
I picked up the language, pretty okay. Again, reading, writing, I was really good at. The kanji was a little bit of a bitch just because it's so it's so different. But to be honest, after learning Japanese, I've forgot a lot now, but when I was learning Japanese, I was like, made me realize how stupid the English language is. Like how it just does not make sense. Japanese is such an easy language to pick up, and it made me just realize how many stupid rules we have in English with different things, for sure.
Yeah, it's a very it's a phonetic language, right?
Yeah.
So when you is it katakana,
Yeah.
those characters are all just like they're like an alphabet. It's kind of like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas English, we have like, I don't know, just stupid rules, like three words that can mean, no, one word that can mean three different things, whereas Japanese is like it's like they don't have a whole bunch of vocabulary, but their words mean exactly what they mean. There's not like 5 different meanings and a different way you say it and this and that, whereas English is just all over the place.
Yeah, it's like flammable and inflammable.
Yeah.
What's the difference? Both mean that they can catch fire, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So there's all these sort of little nuances that we have in the English language. But I think, there's a sort of, there's kind of like a directness that comes from Asian languages. Like it's literally like quite direct in terms of how they will articulate their points.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like English can be quite a descriptive language.
Yeah, we can say things without really saying them, without really, we can kind of sliver our way around the conversation and kind of, not exactly tell you what's on our mind. I'll be like, he's not my favorite, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. Whereas in Japan, they'll just tell you,
hate you.
literally, hey you, like you're a dickhead, you know what I mean?
So then, how did you find like the places to train in Japan?
I think a lot of people in Australia take for granted what we have. You know what I mean? The just the training over there is not the best, to be honest. I mean, I'm not sure about everywhere, but just in terms of Kyoto, where I was training, it's just it's not the best. Just very old school. And the level isn't the best. Like 5-0 pros. Like the last time I went there, I was training with some 5-0 pros who were the same age as me, and I was handling them. And it's like, I come here, I want to go against a 5-0 pro here. I'm probably gonna have a run for my money. Whereas over there, like we didn't even have a cage. We had mattresses tied up to the wall, and that was our wall wrestling. Just it's very it's a bunch of, in terms of Kyoto, it's a bunch of like different guys who are very passionate about the sport and come from different backgrounds, who it feels like they're sort of just trying to figure out MMA. Whereas here, there are so many solid dudes. Like, I've got this guy to the UFC. I've got this guy. I have a system in place. Whereas in Japan, where I was training, it sort of just felt like they were just trying to figure everything out.
Yep. Did you come across much like organized crime, like Yakuza style stuff, training and things like that? Were they in like the gyms that you're at, or?
Maybe, but it's you sort of learn in Japan to just mind your own business.
Yeah.
To be honest, in Australia, I feel like everyone probably asks around a lot of things. Where in Japan, if it's not your business, you don't ask. There were definitely some times where some shady looking guys came into the gym. I'm not even joking, and some cash was handed around. But listen, I'm on the heavy bag. I'm just gonna hit the heavy bag. I'm not gonna ask who this dude is, why he's all tatted up, and he's the only tattooed guy I've seen in 5 months. But yeah, you sort of you learn to put your head down.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I think from a cultural perspective, like maybe we're just all busybodies here.
Yeah, probably, bro. Whereas Japan, everyone's sort of just like very respectful in that way. If it's not their business, they don't ask about it.
Did you get to go to any of the fights over there?
Yep. So I went to a few Muay Thai fights when I was training at my Muay Thai gym, and definitely an interesting experience. Because the average Japanese person you'll meet is a very conservative people. They don't, very, very basic people, whereas the type of people that are attracted to fights are like the total opposite. So, you're used to walking around seeing all these very normal looking people, all sort of head down, not very loud people. And then you walk into this room where there's a ring in the middle and you're just full of all these different characters. And Japan is so weird like that. It's like you're either one thing or you're the other. There's no in the middle of like you're a a normal guy who's a little bit eccentric. It's like you're either on this side of the scale or you're the most normal person anyone will ever meet.
Yeah. And so then, with like, because I always find when you watch like the Pride events and things like that, like the crowd's always very respectful. Was it like that when you went to watch those fights, or were people very loud?
So during the fights, people were cheering for their guy, but then afterwards, everyone was always very respectful and quiet during, when whoever's hand was getting raised, or even when fighters were like jumping on the ropes and celebrating after, everyone was sort of just silent. But during the fight, a guy lands a kick, oi, oi, because it's a Muay Thai event, everyone's doing that. But then as soon as the fight ends, everyone's quiet, everyone claps when the winner gets called. Which is definitely different here. You hear all sorts of shit going on. Grab his dick and twist it. You probably hear that like 50 times every show I'm at here in Australia.
Yep.
Very
that one,
things.
And then like even like the last UFC in Sydney when it was Strickland versus Izzy, right? And then people started chanting Izzy's a wanker, like that kind of stuff. Like the Aussie crowd, like we're so loose.
Yeah, but it's definitely entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it personally.
Yeah,
adds a little bit more to the event. Whereas Japan, you can almost find yourself falling asleep in between fights because it's like, there's not much going on.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty much always been like that in Australia. Because I think I remember when the UFC first came in like 2010 or something like that. Like I was fortunate enough to be at that event, and like the crowd was just loose. Like people were just yelling all sorts of random stuff, and all different. Like somebody's always going to be a wanker. So that chant will always pop up at an event.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because when you listen to the broadcasts, you can't really people are like, oh, what are they saying?
Yeah.
But when you're in the stadium, it's like clear as day that they're saying, oh, they're calling this guy a wanker.
Yeah, Islam's a wanker. That was amazing, bro. I love that. I was going for Islam too, but that was a funny chat.
So, okay. And then so when you're in Japan, like you were doing Muay Thai there, and then you got beat up by your mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, I need to do this MMA stuff.
Yep.
So then did you go and find like a jiu-jitsu gym over there, or?
So like I said, like I was telling you how privileged we are here, there was like one MMA gym that was remotely close to me, and I probably emailed them and called them probably about 50 times. They never got back to me.
Wow.
And so I wasn't able to find anything that was, you know what I mean, that I could go train at any sort of jiu-jitsu gym, anything like that. So I just kept training kickboxing, Muay Thai. I kept having punch-ons up at the park near the school.
Yeah?
I started a whole promotion. I was Dana White, and sometimes I would fight too.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to talk me through this. So what was like, how did this start? And then, how big did it get?
So, like I said, I got beat up by my mate, Ethan. Shout out, Ethan. And then I went, trained for a few months, got a little bit better. Then I called out a different kid. He was probably about 80 kilos. I was probably about 49 kilos at the time. Probably not that small, but I was absolutely tiny. I've got videos of it. It's the funniest thing you'll see. And then I ended up beating him. And then I think...
How'd you get him?
Oh, I think we both just got tired. We just called it a day, but I was definitely...
You beat him on cardio.
Yeah, I was definitely giving it to him. I landed a few good left hooks, and I didn't even really know what I was doing, to be honest. And some kids would come and watch, and we had a whole build up to it and everything. Yeah, we had a face off, all of that. And then I got some other kids to fight each other. I found the two skinniest kids in the school I could find. They fought each other. It was just turned into a fun thing. And then because all the videos and all that were on my phone, my mum somehow found the videos. She told me, she's like, what are you doing? She's like, I don't care if you train, spar, just keep it in the gym. Do not be taking kids up to the park and sparring. So that sort of ended all that. And I think my sister dibbed on me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, ever since then, I was just in the gym sparring.
Did she dob on you because she was worried about you? Or
Oh, no. Definitely not.
just trying to get... was she in trouble for something?
For sure. I don't think she's ever been worried about me. Maybe once or twice when I'm fighting, but at that time, it was just trying to get me in trouble. Yeah.
Okay. And then, because you're in Japan till you were 16, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So then, what was the reason why you wanted to come back to Australia?
To train. I wanted to come back to train because, like I said, I could not find anything in Japan, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And people can think I'm crazy People can call me crazy all they want. But at the end of the day, since I moved out, since I was 16, I've committed to this sport and I haven't stopped. I've been in the gym every single day. I work my fucking ass off to give everything to the sport because it's what I truly love. And I guarantee you, I don't care how many times I lose in the next 5 years, in 10 years, I'm still going to be doing this. And I'm going to make it exactly to where I want to make it. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep training. I'm going to keep doing all of this. And when I set my mind to something, I know I've set my mind to it. I know I've stuck to this. Like I said, I'm going to win some. I'm going to lose some. All of that. But I'm going to stick to this 100%. There's no way I'm giving up on this.
So, like, it's a pretty big call when your whole family's still in Japan, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you got to talk me through this conversation. It's like you're 16, and then you go, okay, mum, dad, I'm out. I'm going back to Sydney.
Yep. So it was just my mum, my little sister, and my brother. I didn't have any sort of relationship with my dad.
Oh. Okay.
But I think it was. I think it's hard to say. I was always an independent kid. That's the thing. I was, going to school. I would tutor after school. I'd do some tutoring, earn some money. I'd go straight to the gym, and then on my way home, I'd pick up some dinner, cook, and then I'd go to sleep. So I was always an independent kid. I was always a kid that, like, my mum never really had to worry that I was gonna go get into some trouble because it's just not me. My little sister and my brother maybe a little bit different. Maybe they have to be micromanaged a little bit more, but she's always been able to trust me. And, my mum, when she was 16, she was living in Adelaide and, she moved out of home to come study fashion in Sydney. So, she's been through that. She understands. And, yeah, like I said, I think I was just honest with my mum. Like, I just told her, listen, I'm not focused in school. This is what I want to do. And I told her that I would get a job, I would commit to this, I would pay for this, and I have, and obviously she's helped me out along the way when I've needed it. But yeah, for the most part, like I've stuck to everything I've said, and I'm gonna continue doing that.
That's a pretty amazing thing for your mum to be supportive of that too.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I feel like for most parents it'd be like, where you going? You stay with the family. You're only 16. Like, there would have been a lot of that. Well, I would think most families would have a lot of that.
Yeah, like I said, I think we are a bit of a different family compared to other families, just because things we've been through. Like I said, my mum did the same thing when she was a kid, and obviously just everything with her going through the cancer, and I think we just all sort of had a little bit of an idea of life can change like that. You know what I mean? Nothing's guaranteed. So, like I said, we've all sort of found our passion. My sister, she's studying interior designing in Melbourne. She's 17. My older brother, he's stayed in Japan. He's studying photography, and I've decided that MMA is what I want to do, and yeah, I guess you could say I'm studying that.
And is your mum still in Japan as well?
So she lives in Queensland.
Oh.
So, yeah.
You guys are everywhere.
Yeah, we're fucking like a disease.
Spreading.
Yeah, we're just spreading. We're worse than COVID. But she moved to Queensland with my sister a few years ago.
Okay.
And because we have some family up there, my uncle and stuff like that. And then, recently my sister, she started studying interior designing in Melbourne, which I think is amazing. And yeah, my brother stayed in Japan. He's pretty much Japanese at this point. He can speak it fluently. He's as Japanese as it gets as far as his personality goes.
And he enjoys
Oh, he loves it. I think he's got a Japanese girlfriend and all of that, so he's living the dream over there.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, but I guess, you mentioned you didn't really have much of a relationship with your dad. I guess, was there a particular point where he exited your life?
So I think when I was like 1 day old, something like that. Yeah, I think he when I was maybe 1 day old. Yeah, it is what it is. What can I do?
And have you ever had a conversation with him or anything? Or
I think when I was like 5 or 6, he met me again. But other than that, not really. I think my mum had to contact him to get maybe like my passport or something done. But yeah, he's just not in my life, and like I said, I'm okay with it. I have my mum.
Yeah.
there's not really, you dealt with the cards you dealt with in life. There's no point crying over
No, 100%.
spilled milk. And I think I live a pretty good life. I'm very blessed for everything. I'm very grateful for everything I've had in my life, even all the hardships I've gone through. Maybe as a kid growing up, I was thinking more so like, why me, why me? But whereas now, and as more of an adult, I'm like, I'm actually very grateful. I've experienced the things I've experienced because it's made me who I am.
You know, I was going to make a comment about that. You know, just like when those things happen to the people around you, like so when your mum's getting diagnosed for cancer when you're 11, right?
Yeah.
Like these things force you to mature.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's kind of like a unintentional byproduct, but like when your family's going through things and like you feel the realness of those situations,
Yeah.
it really like it does change something in you.
Yeah.
And it makes you really like the way that you view the world sort of changes as a
Yeah.
result of it, right? Like I know that I went through that when my mum and my dad were going through their problems, and my mum had like some mental health problems.
Yeah.
Like it really like made me sort of retract into myself a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you know you start to think about things a little bit more, and you have to like you actually spend time thinking about these things because you're forced to, right?
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
go down all the rabbit holes and you think about the worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, all right, well, what can I actually do about it? And
Yeah.
this is where like having physical outlets was that was how I dealt with
Yep.
it, you know. But I think you know there's a healthy way to do it and an unhealthy way to do it. Like I think sometimes people think, oh, you know, you got to work it out, and you keep working, but you don't actually. You're more using the exercise to run from things,
Yeah.
as opposed to actually working it out.
Yeah. No, trust me, I've been through that where it's only probably recent that I've actually started working things through my head. I think my whole defense mechanism was don't think about it, just get in the gym. And then, you know, with fights and stuff like that, everything gets so busy, you kind of forget to really think these things through that you've gone through in your life. And it's really, honestly, only recent that I've even really allowed myself to go through those emotions of thinking that I was going to lose my mum and everything else like that. Yeah, for the longest time, I just hid that all away. Didn't think about it, nothing like that. And, you know, I've had some time off from fights. My last fight was in October, and I've really had time to sort of, you know, allow myself to think about everything I've been through, rather than when's the next one, when's the next one, when's the next one.
Yeah.
I'm able to actually mentally work through these things,
Yep.
which is a big thing because, you know, it's easy to tell yourself, oh, no, it's fine, like, just hide it away. But, you know, once you start actually trying to deal with those emotions, you realize that there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. And I think, like, you know, there's two ways that you can think about it. Like, I always think, you know, the best way to sort of process those difficult things is actually head on, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can run from them as long as you like, but then at some point, you know, it's like a wound that's festering, right? If you never get the wound treated or cleaned up,
Yeah.
right, it's just
Yeah.
going to keep, you know,
It's
opening
like
back
that
up. And it's
niggling
just,
injury that never goes away.
never goes
You
away.
got to deal with it.
You got to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then, but once you deal with it, it's like, okay, well, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then you actually start to realize, oh, okay, perhaps some of these things were holding me back,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And
like
has
like
that-
I said,
Yeah.
like I was saying before, all the things that maybe growing up, I was thinking like, oh, why me? This is shit. Like, fucking, why do I have to deal with this bullshit? Why me of all people?
Yeah.
The kids I go to school with don't have to deal with this. Whereas now I look at it and I'm like, I'm very grateful that I've had these experiences. And like I said, my mum, she survived.
Yep.
Having cancer twice, which is something, you know, I don't think many people can say they have. And I think it's just made me more mature, and everything else that I dealt with growing up, all the other hardships I went through, it's just all matured me, made me a better person. And, you know, there are kids out there that go through so much worse than anything I've had to go through. So I think at the end of the day, just be grateful for what I have, and just learn from my hardships, and
Yeah.
that's it.
So then, okay, you got to talk me through this. So, you know, you had that conversation with your mum. You said, I'm going back to Sydney,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Did you have a plan? Like,
Oh, I literally told her everything that I was going to do. I was like, listen, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to get a job at Macca's or anything. I'm going to work, and I'm just going to pay for my rent and do all of that. And literally word for word, I did exactly that. I think I spent about a few days on my friend's couch. Yeah. And then I moved into a family friend's house. I stayed with them for a little bit. I got a job at Macca's. I started working. I moved out of there. I moved into a hostel when I was like 16. Been paying rent ever since, and working every single day. I've had, probably every job in Sydney that you could possibly have. But
Talk us through. So obviously you worked at Macca's. What else?
I worked at Macca's. I worked
Actually, as we go through them, so
Yeah.
any good stories from Macca's? Anything funny?
Probably try not to punch on with the other kids my age.
Yeah.
Who were, crew trainers and stuff like that. There isn't a whole lot to that. I think everyone should work probably 2 years at Macca's in their life. It's definitely a humbling experience,
I think actually, one of the things that's really underrated about working at Macca's is that McDonald's has like such established processes.
Yeah.
So no matter what role you're doing, if you're cooking, if you're on the counter, if you're the server, whatever it is, there are very established processes for what you need to do. Like even down to like the timing of the fries. How are the fries cooked?
Yeah.
How do you cook the beef patties?
Yeah.
How do you do the eggs?
Yeah.
Like all of those sorts of things. I think people really take those things for granted. But like I think being able to understand process is actually a really valuable skill.
Yeah.
Because how do you create anything that is repeatable, right?
Yeah.
And like there's this great Kobe Bryant sort of clip that I really love where he's like giving this talk about basketball in China, and he's basically saying to be unstoppable you need to at first be predictable.
Yeah.
Because if you're unpredictable and you don't know what you're going to do, how are you supposed to dictate to the defense what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the whole thing why I like process is because, if you're like, just putting these burgers together however the fuck you want.
Mate, now if I can tell you, if I was 16 putting together burgers however I wanted, they would not be called burgers. You know what I mean? So, like you said, at Macca's, there's a process to everything. I think it's a great way to get into work for kids because you have to learn to be on time, clock off at the right time. And like you said, there's a process to everything. There's not like do your own thing here, cook the patty how you want it. It's like everything's timed, everything like that. It's a great way to get into work. I'm very grateful that I had that opportunity when I was young. I'm very glad that it's over. I'm doing something else. I'm doing carpentry now. I've been doing that for the past few years, and I'm a lot happier doing that. But I'm glad I had that experience of working at Macca's. My sister, she's had the same thing. She worked at Hungry Jack's to earn money and all of that. I'm glad she went through that experience too. I think it definitely brought her back to the real world. You know what I mean? Of what it takes to earn your own money and do all of that. Yeah.
And so then when it came to, when you say you moved into a hostel.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like?
It was...
Was it full of backpackers? Or?
Yeah. Okay. Full of backpackers. Yeah, I vividly remember my first night there. I didn't even own like a doona or anything like that. I just vividly remember just lying down on the bed and there's like, a backpacker to my right, and I just remember being like, "Hey, this is my life. What? Like, there are worse things that could happen." And at the end of the day, when I was a kid, when I was 16, sort of, working my way through life, I was like, as long as I have training, as long as I have a roof over my head and I can eat, then that is honestly all I need to be happy. I don't need anything else. I don't need anything special. As long as I have those things, then I'm sweet. I'm good off.
You would have been exposed to some like pretty adult shit.
Oh yeah, but I was exposed to adult shit since a kid.
Yeah.
Since since a little kid I've been exposed to that stuff. So there's nothing that can really shake me. It's very hard to shake me now because I've experienced a lot of stuff as a kid that I don't think other kids were experiencing. And so moving into the hostel like really wasn't that bad. They were all nice. I remember my first roommate, he knew I loved cookies, and he would actually, I was a shy kid. I didn't want to always ask to like have some of his cookies. So he would buy these massive bags, like $2 of like these chocolate chip cookies, and he would leave them open in the room, and he'd be like, "Oh, have as many as you want. I have so many." And people were super nice to me when I moved in there. There wasn't anything too bad I can really say.
Yep. And then so when you came back to Sydney, did you come straight to Eagles or were you training?
So when I first came back to Sydney, I literally had $0 in my bank account. So I just started training with a few mates. They were PCYC boxing gym out in Balmain, I think. And I just started training with them and just was trying to really kind of get on my own 2 feet, like get a solid job and pay for things. But for a long time, it was a struggle, man, trying to find a gym to train at and trying to build up the funds to pay for gym fees and all of that. For my first probably 4 months training at Igor MMA. Igor MMA was the first gym I ever came to, by the way, which I'm very grateful for, because a lot of people end up in the wrong gym and then they get taught wrong things and all of that. But when I came to Sydney, Igor MMA was the first gym I came to. And probably my first 3 or 4 months training here, I could only afford 2 classes a week, 2 casual passes. I wasn't able to pay for the starting off gym fees and all of that. And so, yeah, I just trained like that for a while, built up my funds. I remember the first day I was able to actually pay for my membership. And, the people here have helped me out a lot, you know what I mean? Gave me special discounts that I don't think everyone was getting, and they helped me. Lauren, she helped me a lot. Igor helped me a lot. Yeah. Wow. Very, very grateful.
Yeah. And so then what's it been like for you, these past, 5 odd years? Yeah, here.
Man, my life is, I wake up at 6 a.m., I go to work, I earn my money. As soon as I'm done with work, I come to the gym and I don't leave till probably around 8:30. I go home, and that's my life. That's been my life. I really do love it. I love training. I love working for my money too. And that's why all the days and all the years have really sort of just mixed together, and I do forget how much I've actually competed, how many fights I've had. It's very easy to forget all these things, and it's good to every now and then I look back on my photo album and I see, what I was doing in 2021. I was like, wow, I've actually done a lot. I've done a lot more than, I started training MMA when I was, 17, 16, and I've done a lot for how long I've been doing this, and yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. And then, obviously, you formed some pretty good relationships in the gym as well, right? So I guess, from a mentoring perspective, who have been sort of the biggest influences for you throughout this period of time?
Obviously Josh, because he's like a big brother to me and to a lot of people in the gym, and just seeing him I was at the gym before he was in the UFC, and just being able to see him on his journey and, work through his wins and losses, and I'm able to learn so much from him. But Igor Breakenback, definitely has probably been my biggest mentor here. He teaches me a lot about life. He's had the discussions with me that, I haven't had with, because obviously I haven't had a dad growing up, so he's had those discussions with me before. Like, how to be a man, how to stick to your word, all of these things, and I've learned a lot from him.
Yeah, Igor's he's a special dude.
Yeah.
Because he comes from, he's got that, I wouldn't say, and I don't mean this in a negative way, like that traditional mindset.
Yeah.
But and I don't think that's a bad thing, right? Because I think, traditionalism is often disregarded nowadays, but there is a place for being traditional in your values.
Yeah.
Like people would probably say I'm probably fucking old fashioned in a lot of my views in life.
Yeah.
Right? Just in terms of, what I think a male role model should look like. What I think a female role model should look like.
Yeah,
and
for
that
sure.
doesn't mean that I think, women should be in the kitchen and things like that. No, I think it's like it depends on what a woman wants to do. Like I have strong views around people should be able to express themselves in the right fashions and in terms of there are natural differences.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's always a point where you can be too forgiving on your daughters. Like in my case as a dad, right? I can be too forgiving on my daughters and I can be too hard on my son.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I need to be able to find that balance. But I think, that doesn't mean that I think you should throw out all the rules.
Yeah.
And say that, these traditional family values don't work.
Yeah.
I think, no, there's definitely if anything, I think there's probably even more of a need to have some of those strong values nowadays, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's nice. I think that's a nice thing, for you to be able to get some of those influences in your life, you know, in terms of the training and things like that.
Yeah.
But you've also, you've gotten to train with some cool people as well, right?
Yeah. Super cool people. I've been lucky enough to sort of travel around a bit, get rounds in down at Freestyle. Those boys, I've been there twice. They're super nice people. Earlier this year, I was up in Queensland training with the Dunstan Deaf Squad.
Shout out to Ryan Dunstan.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy. Training with my mate Jake Piper. Yep. And then obviously I was able to train with Sean Gauchi too. which was, you know, great for me to be able to train with pretty much the number 1 and the number 2 bantamweights in the country. And, you know, Ryan Dunstan is a great coach, able to learn a lot from him.
Yep.
And it was great for me being up there. I took a lot of hidings, but I learned a lot, and I came back down with some pretty big confidence in, you know, where my skill set is at and what I need to be doing. And I'm just excited to get back to fighting.
And then from a mental perspective, you know, I guess for you, you know, to me, you're still a baby, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I think I am to a lot of people. I think sometimes I am to myself. I think I forget that I'm a sort of a grown man. I forget a lot of the things that I've been through, just because, you know, all of the time people are sort of projecting that on me. Sometimes I sort of think of myself as the little brother, because that's what people are always projecting on me, and I forget that I'm, you know, I wouldn't say I'm a grown man, but, you know, I'm a man now.
You're growing. Yeah.
I'm 21 years old. I've had plenty of fights. I've experienced more than what I think a lot of kids my age have experienced, and I sort of do need to remind myself a lot that, like, hey, I'm a man now. I have my opinions. I know what I think, and you know, it's okay to sometimes beat people up.
Yeah.
in the gym.
Don't get me wrong when I say that. It's like the reason why I say that is because, you know, when you first meet someone, that impression of them sticks in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like when you think of your schoolmates.
Yeah.
Right? And some of them, let's say, I don't know, if one of them's become like a doctor or something.
Yeah.
And you used to fuck around with this kid, or he used to be the stinky kid that used to fart.
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
mind, like that's that guy, right?
Yeah, 100.
But then it's like, what, now this guy's a doctor? Like,
Yeah.
You know, I think about that, like, of some of my high school mates that are like, you know, whether they're an oncologist or something like that, mate, you're treating cancer patients, like, you used to be that guy, you know?
Yeah.
But so why I say that is because it's kind of cool for me to see you, you know, like very, very early on.
Yeah.
And be able to, you know, be a part of that experience for you as well. And then also get to see, you know, watching you along the journey. And that's what I really love.
Yeah, no, I remember meeting you backstage before it was my second MMA fight on Showdown. I remember I was so nervous. Like, you had this camera and this flashlight, and you were like, hey, let's do an interview. And I was actually so nervous for that. I actually didn't even speak loud enough for you to pick me up on the microphone. I remember you messaged me after, like, hey, next time fucking speak with some voice, because, you know, you need to speak loudly so I can pick you up the microphone. And I was definitely, you know, back then, I was definitely maybe not so sure of myself as I am now.
Yep.
I've done some growing, and I think I've had a few people come up to me and tell me that they still remember me being, like, you know, just a small kid, and they've watched me grow up along the way, and it's super cool to have that.
Yeah, I love that, you know, and I'm fucking excited to see you know, where it all goes for you.
For sure.
But I think we better wrap up. So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
So my handle on Instagram is perry.jamesprivate, and that's pretty much it. I'm not really on anything else.
Yep.
But come watch my fights, come buy tickets and put my name in the checkout, because I want money. And then I don't know, like, just keep watching me. Like I said, I'm gonna keep doing this, what I've been doing, training, sticking to my word, because this is what I absolutely love. I might take a lot of wins on the way. I might take a loss here and there, but I'm going to keep training, and I'm going to get to where I want to get to one day, 100%.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, you know, like, people, you know, I think it's going around again where people are talking about, you know, overnight success, but 10 years of hard work, you know. Like, people don't see the grind that people put behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, I'm really enjoying it, because I get to, you know, I catch people really early on.
Yeah.
And I watch them, you know, and I'm always paying attention to see where do they go, where do they go, and, like, it's cool to be a part of that. And so, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, and hopefully I get fighting soon, and I get some post-fight interviews with you.
Yes, 100%.
And all of that.
Yep.
Thank you, bro.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.